Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Ashok here. Can you send me a chat message if I am audible?
You're very much audible, Ashok.
Very nice. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining in, everyone. I think we are good to go. There are a few more people who will be registering, I understand. But let's go ahead and start today's some interesting session. Let me see if I can. Okay, here you go. So I'll keep on approving people who are joining us as and when I see them. So I can see right now we have quite a few number of people. Okay, so I would like to also welcome Mr. Venu. Venu, you are there?
Hi Ashok, yes, thank you.
Hey, good morning, Venu.
Good morning.
And my colleague, Mr. Vishal. Hi, Vishal. Good morning.
Hi, sir.
Hey, so yeah, I would request Mr. Venu, who is the director of pre-sales in the Asia Pacific region for Checkpoint. Checkpoint, as we all know, that it's a market leader in cybersecurity. So maybe Venu can share his thoughts about the overall security, where exactly it is heading, and his own personal take on the cybersecurity, cyber kill chain concept. So maybe once he can spend few minutes on that, and then we will actually go through the webinar part. So Venu, it all yours.
Ashok, thank you. Thanks a lot. Good morning, everybody. Like Ashok mentioned, I am a part of Checkpoint. I just like to take a few minutes. I'm not going to spend a lot of time presenting. I thought be a good few. It's a great initiative by the Karnataka government. Something that certainly has to be appreciated. And I'm glad to see so many of you interested in actually participating in understanding what the cyber kill chain is all about. So like I said, Ashok, I won't take too much of your time. What I'd like to say about the cyber kill chain is, one, we're interested in red team, right? If you look at the way the attacks have happened in 2007, and we pretty much would expect the same amount of drama in 2018 as well. The skills from a defensive point of view is also equally important, right? So while there are people who are going to continue to attack, how is it that we actually defend? This is a very, very key ingredient of the cyber kill chain. And what we're also seeing is that a lot of companies are beginning to say that 2018 would be the year of the defender in terms of the cyber security perspective. Now, that is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it to consider is also that newer technologies are evolving, which means that newer threats are also evolving. People are taking their data to the clouds. Mobile is one of the biggest threat vectors that will emerge very, very soon, because all of us spend more time on our mobiles than on our laptops, right? And that could be the easiest shortcut for anybody to get into an organization. Likewise, critical infrastructure security is something that you have to keep in mind when you put together any cybersecurity strategy, or if you're thinking of mastering the cybersecurity subject. The blue skills, defending is as important in any particular kill chain, probably the most important if you are being attacked, right? So keeping this in mind, I think this would be a great workshop for you to learn about both these aspects of the cyber kill chain. And thank you once again, Ashok, for inviting me.
Hey, thanks a lot, Venu. I appreciate. I know you are running for a meeting, and then that's for setting the tone for today's webinar. Appreciate. Thanks, Venu. Appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. So we have. I can see a few more people have joined, and I think more and more people are going to join us, and they're taking some more time. So in the meantime, let me introduce myself. So those who do not know and have not aware what QS Technology is doing. So we are a Bangalore-based cybersecurity product and services company, and we have offices in Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata, and couple of months back, like we have opened an office in US as well. So we are primarily a product plus services. And now when we were working on the cybersecurity business and the challenges, ideally we started as a blue skills. So our whole idea was to defend. So we have a lot of products from different companies, some really nice products from Checkpoint and all the other vendors as well. And we are just trying to protect the critical infrastructure of the organization. And then as we were growing, we realized the other part of the security, which is the red skills. And when we started exploring more and more red skills, then we realized, okay, what we knew was only certain percentage of the knowledge which we acquired, and we thought, okay, this is good enough to protect the system. So acquiring red skills is also equally important to actually protect the the infrastructure or critical network which you're trying to safeguard. And that is what we thought, okay, we will go ahead and bring this entire concept of mixing this red and blue, and that's how purple color will be evolved. And Purple Synapse was another brand which we launched, under which we are teaching and doing some research from both the perspective of the cybersecurity angle. So we understand hackers should know how people are defending it so that they can do their job. Primarily hackers, when I say the good hackers like VAPT folks, and also people who are defending it, they should open up their understanding and then see, yes, this is the way hackers are going to do that. Because see, there is no prefixed steps, like nobody's going to do a step 1, step 2, step 3 and then hack some machines, right? So it is very, very important to understand what all vulnerabilities can be exploited and what all things a hacker can do. Or maybe no matter how much you do your preparation, there is always an angle of surprise. However, Cyber Kill Chain is a very nice and strong model which is developed by Lockheed Martin. They are very well known for developing one of the sophisticated fighter planes. And at least that gives a very good idea for people who are just trying to understand what are the various stages and where all these people are playing and trying to make harm to you, or trying to steal the data, or they just want to disrupt your services. Or at the same time, you can have the similar approach and put all your products and processes to block at various skills or various stages of cyber kill chain. So that is very, very important to understand. Okay, so I'll tell you one very interesting story why we very, very strongly believe in mixing those two skills for any security professional. See, when in Purple Synapse we do a lot of research and all. So one day I invited my blue team and red team in my office, and I told them, okay, here is a vulnerable server, and you have to protect this machine against the red people who are going to attack this machine, and you can use whatever you want to to safeguard your vulnerable server. We all know there's a vulnerable, so anybody can attack it, but eventually you have to use a lot of blue devices which are used in protection part, like firewall, IPS, URL filtering, SIEM tool. Do whatever you want and let hackers attack those systems, bypass your security controls, and get access to your the end machine. To my surprise, I was very, very enthusiastic when I see that philosophy of having these two different skills possessed by two different teams. Because the red team was nervous because they thought, okay, even though I know the site is vulnerable, but I'm not feeling that confident to bypass those blue part, right? While they are nervous, the blue team is also nervous. So they are thinking, okay, maybe I'm configuring this box for quite some time, but I cannot be 100% sure. And I can commit that, yes, whatever I have done is absolutely okay, and I can challenge people to attack my machines. So the interesting thing to learn from that perspective is there is always a certain amount of apprehension and nervousness when these two skills are seen differently. And obviously the person who understands both part of the story, then obviously he is in peace and then able to do much of his job in a really nice way. So without taking much of the time from here, I think we are running 5 minutes late, but I think we will be able to cover. So what I would say is we will run this webinar for 60 minutes where Vishal is going to take over. Vishal is our security expert and is also an independent researcher and also a core member of Purple Synapse. So he will be talking more detail technically in about the agendas what we have to discuss today. And once we are done with this webinar, we'll open up for questions. So if you would like, you can send your questions in chat, which we will address at the end of the webinar, or you can write down somewhere in the notepad, and then we can open up for discussion. So I'll just welcome you one more time, everyone, those who have joined later on. And I'll just hand it over to Vishal. Vishal, you are there, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm making Vishal as a host now, and then you can share your screen, and it all yours, Vishal.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. Firstly, thank you, Ashok sir, for giving me a quick introduction on me. And I welcome you, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. First of all, I'd like to confirm whether everyone is able to see my screen. You can confirm over the chat.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
we can.
Thank you so much. So before we start the topic, I would like to give a brief background on myself without taking much time. I basically started as a blue skilled engineer for quite a few years. And as I understood later on in the field of cybersecurity, what is the necessity of understanding the other part of the story, which is a red skill. So having explored a red skill as well in the world of cybersecurity and blue skilled I had already. So I found my approach in viewing the security in completely different dimensions. The way I used to think from only blue team perspective was entirely different when I look right now as a red and blue both. So in QS technology, we call that approach as a purple approach, mixing red and blue. So today in the topic of cyber kill chain, we'll be understanding the same in terms of blue as well as red. Firstly, in terms of red, and then we'll cover up in the blue part later on. Okay, let us quickly start. So, what is the cyber kill chain again? I would just start up again. Cyber kill chain, as Ashok sir mentioned, it was developed by Lockheed Martin. So basically, cyber kill chain can be understood as a framework or as a model for identification or prevention of cyber attacks. This model gives you a clarity what the attacker must complete in order to achieve their goals. So basically, in cyber kill chain, there are 7 steps. So what are these 7 steps? These 7 steps of cyber kill chain, it enhances your ability to understand and enrich as an analyst, how the adversaries or attackers' tactics works, which technique they use, and what are the procedures they use. So we'll try to cover up all this in terms of red and blue in the later part of the slides. So before that, in this slide, this is how I view the current state of security in the cybersecurity world. I would probably say an internet world. I hope all of us agree with that, because as we know, there is nothing called 100% security. It is just about how prepared you are, in which way you are prepared, so that, the time the apocalypse happens in the cybersecurity, whether you are prepared or not. The more prepared you are, the more secure you are. So it's not 100%. It's about who wins the game. In Purple team, we have an approach called red versus blue. So if you are given an opportunity in a chess game, consider a game in which if you're leaving your vulnerabilities in your move as a blue team, they will win the game. They will kill your soldiers, they will kill your assets, and so on. So likewise, it is always good to keep up your skills up to date, and so as to, whatever the strategy tactics the attackers might come in, you are ready for that at any point of time as a approach-based security. Now, going to the next slides. So what are the key challenges that we face currently in the world of cybersecurity generally? First thing that comes to my mind is there has been so much investment in, on security, purchasing security devices. It is there, but the approach, even though you have this proper security devices in place, if the approach to deal with the threat landscape is not up to the mark, that still leaves a loopholes for an adversaries or an attacker. Second thing is, one of the myths I wanted to clear, this is from my survey on various training, like regarding the second point, like organizations need to understand that what is the definition of defeat and what is the definition of victory for attacker as well as defender. Let us understand from attacker, this second point. Consider somebody has found some information about you, but they have not yet been able to exploit it. So that cannot be considered as a situation of defeat for a blue team, which is the team who is defending it, right? So in the phases of cyber kill chain, which will be breaking in, so they will understand that until and unless attacker achieve the motives, like they are able to get reverse shell, they are able to exfiltrate the data, they are bringing the services down of the target, until and unless that object is not done, and that is not a win situation for them. But in order for an attacker to achieve or to completely execute an attack on the target, they need to pass through the various skill chain, which even blue team understands. So we'll cover up that part in the later part of the slides. And IT security organization, like I mentioned, they have historical investment in prevention focused based, approach. That means only being reactive during an attack rather than not being that much of proactive. So this might cause some business loss, or if you are lucky, you may be able to block it, but still this is a risk. So there should be some approach called like architectural approach. So what does this architectural approach means? Means it is a combination of being proactive as well as reactive, and it's a combination of both. For example, if you know what you are protecting, like your crown jewels could be your data, right? So architectural approach offers protection throughout the network attacks, for example. Like once you know what you're protecting, then you comparatively enhance your skill how to be reactive as well. You will be spending less time doing the reactive process because you know what kind of security has to be built in. Because architectural approach, once you think about it, the moment you start implementing the security infrastructure in your environment, your security approach will be embedded from the very beginning rather than at any time. So this is why it is important. And so let us try to understand. This is just a brief view of my understanding of security, and this is how I view the security. So as we understood, there was 7 phases in cyber kill chain, in which you'll go one by one at a time now. So reconnaissance. So I found this picture very relevant to this phase, because what does reconnaissance tells us is trying to identify the target. It is an action of researching and analyzing information about the target. Like attacker would, if it is an advanced attack we are talking about, they would always tend to know about what is the target information. Any form of information could be helpful for them, maybe or maybe not. But this is usually done by any attacker. Second thing is if, for example, attacker has found that customer is using this version of server, which they found publicly that, okay, this is vulnerable. So there will be many assumptions going on. Let us take this exploit and, exploit the vulnerabilities which I found. But it is not as easy as it sounds, because even the attacker has to go through various phases of the kill chain before actually executing an attack. So reconnaissance, finding information about the target, getting to understand the target. It could be physical security. It is even could be a security into entering the customer infrastructure. For example, USB driver allowed or not. What kind of assets are allowed? What kind of assets are not allowed? What are the network segmentation over there? Any form of this thing. What are the, if it is internet facing resources like websites, so what study can I do so that, I can just attack from sitting on a place without having to go into the infrastructure. So it takes a various forms. So after reconnaissance, in which we have found some information about the target, so attacker starts, they start creating a custom malwares. This takes many forms. It could be a custom malware, it could be a web application attacks, anything. So in this phase, the attacker decides which malicious payload to be used against the target. Now, there are two ways of understanding here. So when I say preparing a malicious payload, it could be specific to the target, or it could be non-specific target. Non-specific target means if I have a malicious website or compromised website in which just by visiting that website, customer would be vulnerable by drive-by download. Means they just have to visit the website, their PC will be infected through various attack vector means. They just have to visit the website. Their browser is vulnerable, some script gets executed in the background, and intention is objectified. So this could take a various form. In our case, we'll be taking as a specific target. We know what we are targeting. So now, as we have covered up in reconnaissance, that I know what my target is having. So based on that, in weaponization, attacker would know what to prepare based on the reconnaissance. Now, delivery mechanism. So there are various ways to understand the delivery mechanism. It could be via mail, it could be via USB, it could be any form of transmission to the target. So sometimes if there is a vulnerability in physical security where, pen drive is allowed, USB devices is allowed, so they might end up injecting any kind of a payload over there, or deliver any kind of a payload, or any types of a malware over there. So, but on average, it is always delivered. If it is a secured environment as well, it takes a various form of attack called like phishing, which takes a form of a mail, basically. That becomes a very common attack vector these days. So any form of transmission that can be understood of files is what happens in the delivery stage. Like, again, delivery, if my target is not specific, again, they just have to visit my malicious website or compromised website. After that, whosoever visits that website via browser vulnerability, their machines, which browser they are accessing, they become vulnerable to the specific attack vector, which is there in the website. It could be ransomware, it could be worms, it could be a virus, it could be, it can take any form of an attack vector. So delivery mechanism. Reconnaissance, we found some information about the target. Weaponization, we develop some custom malwares about the target, and then we need to find a way to deliver to the target. So this is where it comes to delivery stage. Now, even after you find a delivery, there comes another stage in cyber kill chain called exploit. So what is this exploit? Exploit takes advantages of a vulnerabilities, and it helps attackers set foothold in their environment. Okay, let us take one really simple example. Consider in the reconnaissance stage, very first stage, we have found that customer is somehow using Acrobat Reader. of some versions which is openly vulnerable and publicly available. So in the second stage of weaponization, I start creating custom malwares related to the Acrobat Reader version by creating some PDF file and injecting some payload during my weaponization. I deliver it via USB drive or a mail. Now, for attackers to proceed further, they need to pass this exploit stage as well. So here, if attackers happens to get past this phase, then that means they have already exploited the vulnerabilities. Consider there is a vulnerability in Acrobat Reader, in customer environment, in customer PC, which is a software that it takes up binaries in such a way that it should not be accepting. So that research and weaponization is already done by an attacker. So in weaponization, they have injected their malicious code over there. So this exploit is basically helping you take advantages of a vulnerability which lies on the Acrobat Reader. And this exploit can be understood as a zero-day exploits as well. You know, if zero-day exploit is only, you know, specific, if you have a specific target. Take an example of Stuxnet. The way that malware was been designed to execute and to perform its objectives, it was completely custom. So provided if there is an enthusiastic finance on the background for an attacker, if they have the resources, they can possibly go for this form of, this form of the situation as well for a finding zero-day exploits. Now, after exploit comes installation of malware. Now, these things, it is divided into different phases of cyber kill chain, but exploit and installation of malware goes hand in hand. So what is exploit? What is the difference between exploit and installation of malware? I would like to first present that. Consider a rocket, and in the rocket, inside will be the bomb, for example. So the rocket will just help you carry the bomb inside to the target. Once the rocket lands in the target, that bomb is the thing which will be actually doing the objectives or intention. So when I say exploiting the vulnerability, that means we are exploiting the vulnerabilities of Acrobat Reader as a PDF file, in which as soon as the user who receives that PDF file in the mail, they will open that PDF file, but they'll open the PDF file, it will be like any normal PDF file. But on the background, because there was a vulnerability in Acrobat Reader of injecting another custom code as well, so that helps me inject the malicious payload, which comes this stage. So this is where I actually deliver the payload. And the target is not aware, like, you know, they are able to open PDF file and read it, but on the background, what is happening due to the unpatched, Acrobat Reader, due to the vulnerable version of the software they are using, attackers is ultimately able to reach the target via delivering the payload. So in this stage, once this stage comes, attacker, that malware also tries to maintain its persistence against any detections. It could be in a form of a rootkit, it could be a form of, it could take any form, so as to remain undetected. Undetected for how long? As an advanced persistent threat, it depends on how the malware has been designed. It could be instant action, it could be, action after 30 days or 60 days. So this installation of malware, it basically sets a platform for communicating with the external parties. So what is that external parties? It comes in next phase, command and control. So let us understand from this, whatever the phases we have covered, in the last phase, we have injected malicious payload, right? In that malicious payload, maybe my intention was not to destroy the hardware. My intention is to connect to the command and control server. So attacker has just injected as a stage payload, not entire payload. So in our PDF file, one part of the payload is just acting as a reversal communication to the command and control. So once the attacker has a command and control access, they have a complete control over that particular machine, whosoever is communicating with the command and control server, whosoever has executed that PDF with vulnerable version of Acrobat Reader.
I found this on the web for command.
So now, since we have an outbound connection to the CNC server, adversaries or attacker can have a control over your assets in any form, such as DNS. Once they are into the internal environment, they can decide their objectives, which comes in later part of the kill chain. So whoever the machine who has clicked on the PDF file, they become as a part of the bot for a command and control. They can instruct them what has to be done. It is like an army for an attacker. Attacker is a officer who is instructing the army what has to be done. Do when I say do, destroy when I say destroy, or any form. It's just an instructor point. It's just like command and control of the bot who will be doing by the adversaries sitting somewhere outside anonymously. So this is what is about command and control. So this phase also makes ready for exfiltration stage, which comes in the next phase of cyber kill chain, which is action. So far we understood attacker could have done anything, right? Like, for example, he would have taken command and control, and after that he would have, just destroyed the data with a virus. But these days, considering the amount of security devices being, present in most part of the organization, and ISP also coming with blacklisting IP as well as URL, this thing has comparatively decreased, but the number of internet users has increased. So attacker is never losing an opportunity in terms of having control over as much assets as possible. So they basically try to get control of the bot for as long as possible. For any attack vector like DDoS attacks, it could be, one other form could be exfiltration. So in this action, it could be anything. Suppose I have a control over the target environment in which my only objective is exfiltrating the sensitive data, but not being there for long for doing another attack vector like DDoS. So it completely depends on how the attack structure has been designed by an attacker. So it could take the form of any attack vector. In our case, we can understand, since we'll understand in such a way that that PDF file, whatever was been, clicked by an user, and ultimately injecting the payload on the back end, which is given command and control to an attacker, the objective was to steal the sensitive data. So which comes as in actions and objectives. So it totally depends on attacker, how they have designed the malware, whether they want to again further maintain their persistence or what they plan to do. They might even immediately disconnect from the bot and they might not connect back again because their objective is done. So these are all the 7 phases of cyber kill chain, in which if you take any example of any attack, there is always a reference point to understand, like which phases of cyber kill chain I should look up into, where was the fault, and what could have been done. So let me summarize whatever you have covered in the red teaming as an example. First, in reconnaissance, consider attacker finds an email address. In weaponization stage, in reconnaissance, firstly, finds email address, and they also get to know that they are using some PDF files. They accept PDF files, and they might be using Acrobat version as well, via social engineering or via many other means of information gathering. So in weaponization, they create malicious PDF files, custom malwares. And comes a third stage, then they need a way to deliver it. So their attacker will deliver PDF via emails. Now, attacker need to exploit the vulnerability. So here in our case, attacker will be exploiting the vulnerability of an Acrobat Reader. So while exploiting the vulnerability of Acrobat Reader, there is some payload execution happening when somebody has opened this PDF file, who's taking advantage of the vulnerability lies in the Acrobat Reader. So once user installs the payload, after double clicking on the PDF file, attacker gets command and control access. Now, once the attacker gets a command and control access, attacker decides the objectives. What has to be done with the machines, the machine which is compromised. So this is a brief way to understand as any attack vector. In my case, I've taken an attack vector as, some malicious PDF file transferring via email, and there is a vulnerability lies in the Acrobat Reader as a software which is installed in the client machine. And instead of destroying as a virus or spreading as a worm, my objective was to get a command and control access. And after attacker get as a command and control access, what is the thing attacker wants to do? Whether they want to reside for 60 days or they want to immediately exploit the data and stop the connections. So this is how you can understand any form of an attack and take reference at any point of time to any of the phases, because it is relevant to any attack in the world. Like Venu sir mentioned, since 2007 to 2018, everything is relevant. These things will still be the same. So before that, before moving to, blue skills. Now, whatever we have covered is only from attacker perspective of understanding the kill chain. So in this, before starting, I just wanted to make sure that, am I going fast or something? Is it okay? Should I go slow or anything? Am I good to go?
Yeah, Vishal. I think
Yeah.
that will be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now let us understand the cyber kill chain in terms of defensive approach. Here, reconnaissance. So we have been discussing in the previous slides, in the reconnaissance slides, that it is about information gathering. That means attacker is finding some information, and attacker is gathering some information about the target which should not be available, but is available. So how to understand as a defensive approach? First, professionals like VAPT team should be hired to perform regular testing of external or internal. So how this will help is, since attacker, if you take from attacker perspective, they are finding some information in the way to the internet, right? Whatever it is. So VAPT team will also try to understand from the attacker's perspective, but in an ethical way, that what could attackers end up finding in the internet, which is publicly available, or maybe available in the dark web or a deep web. So it could take any form of information in which VAPT, these guys know specifically what has to be done on that part of the situation. So this is recommended. Now, meanwhile, even this thing you can do it, but if you hire VAPT engineers, they have their own way of doing it. For example, search about your companies or your organization or even yourself with your name or email address, what kind of information is publicly available. Should it be available? Should it be not? And resources. As we know, in the ClearNet, which is WW part, which is index part of the world, right? Which you search engine like Google and Bing works. There are 95% of the world as a dark web and deep web. There are still many information are available. So that pretty much take toll from the whosoever is doing a research. So that's why there is even a company these days who is offering such services, like what kind of information about your assets. Assets could be your email address or about your company is available in the ClearNet as well as the dark web or deep web. So this can also be recommended. If such services are available, take advantage of such services, because that reduces the human effort. As we always know in security, the more time you take, the more difficulties you arouse, right? So if there is already a solution available who, instead of you spending 2 weeks, they can provide you in 2 days. So this is always, in terms of security, there is nothing should be left as in leverage over there. So we should always try to sort out in less time as possible. And again, for which there is a solution. Perform OSINT, it is just that thing which I was mentioning about, open source intelligence tool, like what information available about you in dark web as well as the deep web. So this is a method which could be done a research via tool or manually, but comparatively it takes more time if it is done by a human. So my recommendation, take the services, and there are certain services which is already available for coming up against this kind of preventing against the reconnaissance phase. And last point is, during the reconnaissance, what can also should be understood as an example is using applying application security testing, or there should be a SDLC principles to make sure application aren't leaking any details. For example, if developer teams are using a tool called like checkmarks, right? They should make sure that before it goes public, or yes, as an example, before it gets public and you're trying to publish some application or website for the first time, make sure it is properly tested as in the source code, like it is not leaking any sensitive details in terms of security. So we are able to go and publish this to the public as an update or as a new applications. So, and we also need to make sure that while there is a situation when you are reusing a code, make sure it is retested again, because the application which you developed 5 years ago and you are still using that, there could be a situation where you might reuse a code in one or the other way, which had a vulnerability 2 to 3 years back, correct? Even though you're using it, make sure it is tested via various, framework by your application team or a, developer team. So this should be periodically done. This should be a proactive measures. Instead of some customer complaining that there is some issue happening in my application, it should be tested from our end before publishing it. So this is reconnaissance. And use honeypots. For example, again, reconnaissance can be understood in two ways. One is active reconnaissance, one is passive reconnaissance. Active, somebody directly accessing the target interface and trying to understand about the target. Passive, trying to understand the information without interacting with the target, that is, which is publicly available somewhere in the internet sites. So in that case, if somebody is interacting with your website and trying to find some information, you can create some honeypots as well, where the information which they are gathering is not the actual one which you plan to show to the public. So this can be dealt with this form of methodology as well. Now comes weaponization. In weaponization, as we understood from the kill chain or from red team perspective, red skills, that it is when you, based on the reconnaissance, when you plan building your custom malwares. In our case, it was a PDF file, right? Related to Acrobat Reader. So this phase is often performed with no specific knowledge of an organization. What does it mean is, as I mentioned earlier, there are two things. One, the target is specific. One, the target is not specific. So it could take in any form. If target is not specific, it could be drive-by download. If target is specific, it could be a custom malware. So organization need to take a proactive measures, like whatever the software, whatever the applications they are using, to make sure that that is either tested during by VAVT team, or if there is a patches available, make it immediately up to date with the latest patches related to your organizations. And make use of IPS for prevention and detection of exploitations. Because when somebody is trying to trying to find an information during the reconnaissance as an active reconnaissance, if they are trying to inject some command or inject some input through which they are trying to find some information about the target, whether that server is vulnerable or not, and many other information, this can be prevented from the use of IPS by putting at the perimeter end. So in reconnaissance, we understood how it can be stopped. Okay, even after reconnaissance, somebody happens to come till weaponization, this is how it can be stopped. If you have a proactive measures and making life difficult for an attacker over there, by the use of IPS, by use of following the very basic rule of security, like keeping your applications or software up to date with the latest patches. And there should also be a good, it is also a good practice if there is a threat intelligence providers who will give you advanced notification regarding any form of attack, right? There are many IOCs and IOA vendors whom you can subscribe, and they'll give you notification about, various form of an attack, whatever you have subscribed for. So if you're already using a vendor, some product, there is always a way to get it notified via mail. So make sure it is made as a practice to do this, rather than somebody exploiting and then you get to know as a second-hand information, like, okay, there is this kind of attack which exists as well, which you could have known 2 weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago, maybe 1 month ago. That was how WannaCry was spread. Microsoft already released a patch, before that WannaCry attack, but not many users, patched their Windows machine. Nobody bothered to read it, correct? So that becomes the impact. So later on, we all were, blaming why Microsoft is working, why Windows is being infected by ransomware, why not Linux? So because there has to be notified, and serious people needs to understand that via many information means, like a threat intelligence informations. So that is the importance of being up to date with the notifications, which will help you against many apocalypse in cybersecurity. Okay, consider the attacker has passed weaponization stage. Now attacker has reached to delivery. Now what can be done at a delivery? You can have a next generation firewall where there is, application layer security as well, and many form of security, in which you can understand the attack in much broader perspective than the traditional form of security. You can have sandboxing. When I say sandboxing, there is advanced level of sandboxing available, which is called CPU emulation sandboxing, okay, rather than traditional OS sandboxing. This can also be implemented at the delivery stage before reaching to the target, which is a end user. And delivery, we mentioned by email, right? So if somebody is sending a mass email of PDF files to your organization, so if it is a mass mail which is a spam, or if it is a mass mail which could be, any form of malicious mail, there should be specific anti-spam feature which should be available at the perimeter level for the email security. Now, email security could also be understood from the mail server. Like, for example, if abc@gmail.com should only communicate between that domain, abc@mycompany.com should only communicate within that company domain. Other than that, if somebody is sending a mail from Gmail, Yahoo, or anything, should not be accepted, considering our business logic. But that is not possible in another business logic where they have to receive a mail from Gmail as well as Yahoo in your company email ID, correct? So this thing never stops. So that is the reason you need to have a proper security at the perimeter, in the form of email security, in the form of next generation firewalls and CPU emulations, and a proper application level security gateway. Most important thing, security awareness for users. For example, if you sit with 2 users and get one demo email as a phishing mail and make them understand which one is legitimate, which one is not. So that awareness gives them a lot of visibility and understanding. Okay, I'll think twice before even clicking on something, before doing on something. That kind of situation and training should always be done periodically, or whatever suits the requirement, because that comparatively reduces the chances of user actually clicking the malicious files. Because believe me, there are phishing mail which I saw few days back, which is very hard to differentiate which is real, which is not, because they tend to come from a legitimate email address, which has a very good reputation in terms of IP as well as the mail domain which is registered. So it takes that form, which is very difficult. In that case, even anti-spam may not work. Okay. So what happens if your anti-spam feature, which is the mail delivery in our case, doesn't work, comes exploitation, right? They will plan for exploitation once they go after delivery. So after delivery in exploitation stage, we can have as various technologies in conjunction, like we can have IPS, we can have SIEM solution to monitor the malicious behavior in a network by correlating events for multiple security assets. Multiple security assets could be firewall, your syslog server, your network behavioral analysis. It could be any form of the assets which is available inside your network, which defines the architectural security of your environment. So that thing can be viewed in a simple one single console to understand what is going on with your environment. But it is also important to understand what is the whether the correlation rules are written quite properly or not. Correlation rules is some concept in SIEM, that is how you correlate the events and ultimately find that whether it's an attack or not. So this is how you write it. Sometimes these days it comes as a pre-configured rule, but they also give you the option of doing it manually. So it should be a combination of both. So exploitation, what did you understand? Exploitation, taking advantage of vulnerability. Taking advantage of vulnerability, IPS directly comes into the picture. The IPS main feature dedicatedly is whatever the non-vulnerability and exploits are available, stop it, correct? But it cannot do alone many things because IPS only works on the basically on the non-vulnerabilities most of the times, right? Because there are various solutions for unknown vulnerabilities as well. So that is on average. So you also need to have next generation firewall again. See, after delivery or weaponization, the kind of assets that will start coming up in the blue team, it will be quite similar, which will be adding up. See, we were seeing next generation firewall in the previous phase as well, right? We'll be seeing this phase as well. Sandboxing, this should be there. Now comes installation of malware. See, as soon as we talk about installation, that means it has reached to the client. So that means it has already passed the mail security mechanism, your perimeters security mechanism, and it has reached the endpoint client and they are able to see in a mail. Now there comes the endpoint security. So it is host specific methods, because your perimeters security cannot understand what happens at the registry level in the Windows machine, because for that there needs to be an endpoint security installed on the Windows machine who understand if there is any modification in the memory of the Windows machine. Suppose you execute any malicious file, it requires a memory to execute, how it is executing, how it is allocating, what is the behavior it is doing at the registry level as well as at the memory level. So that thing can be understood by the endpoint software, not the perimeter software. So this is also very important. And this is one of the loopholes I think many organizations have. Like they primarily focus not much on the endpoint security, but on the perimeter security. Because endpoint security can also have various advantages, like you cannot just insert a malicious USB because it requires username and password to open that USB. So you can have various technologies and various settings and various configuration being done on the endpoint machines rather than only depending on the perimeter security. So there comes the endpoint protection. There are many endpoint protections you have it, which takes care of the ransomware attacks, which takes care of the behavioral based attacks. Okay, so that's the importance of perimeter security, which cannot be done by the endpoint security, which cannot be done by the perimeter security. Threat intelligence platform is required again, automated solutions and anti-bot solutions. For example, how this, even if somebody installs a malware or malicious payload, there is something called, like in our case, CNC communication was happening, right? So in that case, if any CNC communication was happening, anti-bot takes care of it. If it is up to date, if it is well configured and well up to date devices is in front. And if you have internal DNS, then you can do some whitelisting and blacklisting for a company, which website should not be visited, which website should be visited. And there should be a backups in case you are infected by ransomware. Sometimes you cannot completely trust an endpoint solutions, right? It may work, it may not work. Suppose what if your CPU goes 95% and in the meantime, there is some encryption happening on the background by a malicious file, which is taking a form of a ransomware attack. So anything can happen, right? So it may not work properly feasibly when your machine itself is behaving like that. So there are many other ways which could be understood that, it could take in any form. It might still end up affecting your machine in spite of having very best security configured. So command and control again. So the only objectives over here, what we have understood is it should not, it is a communication back to an attacker. The only way to stop it is we can stop at the perimeter security as well by having a anti-bot solutions. Pretty simple, nothing to do there. And the other thing is you can even have some network behavioral analysis tools and IPS, any form of another security, because I'm specific to anti-bot because this is command and control. But by the time you come in command and control related to another phases of security, that assets will also be present, right? So this is how specific you can be in every phases in the blue team perspective. In this command and control, I'm specific to an anti-bot solutions. Now come actions and objectives. This also comes on the endpoint machines, right? Because after the delivery and installation, we are totally dealing with the endpoint machine. So if there is endpoint security available, then it can take actions. If it is not, it will start performing the attacker objectives. Maybe start spreading slowly as a worm, or could take any form of attack. So exfiltration, since exfiltration of data is like stealing data which has to be downloaded to CNC server again, so this can also be stopped by anti-bot solutions or DNS filtering. And you can even have SIEM solutions here if some information from various assets has been exchanged somewhere else. The pretty, not a normal behavior. And of course, endpoint security should be there. If there was an endpoint security already in place, then that malicious file would never have been executed. If that malicious file had never been executed, there will never be a CNC. Okay, so this other thing. Now, let us summarize now in terms of blue team, the same slide which we covered up, this one. Just a brief summary. Okay, here reconnaissance. We understood in blue team perspective that there has to be various VAPT and some experts should, involved in this, and there should be various testing being done of softwares and many more before making it public, or if it is already public, there should be proactive measures of creating an update patch for that by doing a regular testing. So that is how it could be stopped. Even the IPS can take a role. If somebody is trying to have a direct interaction, I said, right? Like I mentioned, active reconnaissance is somebody is trying to do. They will try to inject some malicious input to understand whether it's vulnerable or not. At that time, it can still be inspected by an IPS module. Weaponization, creating a malicious file, right? So weaponization got inspiration from reconnaissance after what they found. But as we understood in weaponization, it could take two forms. One is specific attack, one is non-specific, which is drive-by download. So updating to the latest patches is the pretty basic solution for this one, and having various security perimeter devices in front, like IPS, wire, and any form of, basically IPS is relevant here again. If somebody is trying to, sneak around the target environment, trying to understand the behavior of the target, this is where it can understand. Like, okay, there is a signature, attacker is trying to inject some of this input which matches this signature, which could be an information category. Delivery, mail security, perimeter security, which should go in, which should go out. Exploit, again IPS, and many other security, solutions in front. Malware installation, like I mentioned, if there was an endpoint solution available in which perimeter security could not take care of, endpoint solution can still help out. Command and control. If somebody is still past phase 5 and they are in phase 6, then that attack can still be stopped by anti-bot solutions. Now 7, attacker decides the objective, what has to be done. See, every objective, every phases in this kill chain can be understood where it could have been stopped. Now, to finish up, until and unless in our scenario, right, consider that the ultimate objective of creating that malicious PDF file was to steal a data, exploit the data. So Even if the attacker reaches still phase 6, that is not a win situation for attacker. Attacker has to win the 7 phases in order for objectives to win the goal. So that is what is the definition of win for attacker. What is the definition of, defeat or win, whatever the blue team takes. But for the blue team, if somebody has reached till their parameter, there has to be something checked, right? So blue team needs to take care. See, there are architectural approach. Again, I said it's a mixture of proactive and reactive. So that should be done periodically. So even if somebody has come till command and control, there should be a way out, like, okay, I have saved this attack, but what went wrong in my other phases like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what was the reason being why I was able to find logs in anti-bot logs, why not in another perimeter security solutions like IPS and anything? What did I miss? So you should always go back, like proactive measures, what can be done, so that next time whenever any such of relevant attacks happens to your target, you are ready for that one. So at any point of time, anything, you can always take reference in any part of the kill chain in blue team as well as a red team perspective. So sir?
Vishal,
Yeah, I think I'm done.
thank you so much, Vishal.
Yeah.
It was really good, and you were able to cover the time, and I hope so you can still many people are still hanging around. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a good listener and participant. And we can take few questions. You can, depending upon today's presentation and whatever we have shared, if you would like to say something or if you have a specific question. But before that, Vishal, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So tell me one thing, Vishal. See, you talking about red and blue skills, right? I mean, what do you suggest? People should start learning the red part and then like ethical hacking and OSCP kind of skills, or then go to blue, or they learn blue? And what do you suggest? Like, how does it work? Or people should start both at the same time?
Basically, I started from blue because I didn't have that option in the beginning. But basically, I think it should be red first,
Okay.
and then blue. Because if you understand from red, it doesn't give you a diversions, right? You'll start learning more and more. You'll cover up more topics. You'll understand more and more. But if you understand the blue first, then you'll have various objectives in the beginning itself. You might limit yourself in understanding various knowledges which is available. So that will be the limitations.
So
In my case, I controlled that.
okay, good. So basically, for those who are having choice, they can start with some skills on red, acquiring, and then blue. They can keep on adding it. Okay, but otherwise also possible, because you are the guy who know both at the
Yeah.
same time. Okay, so one more question, Vishal, is like when you work on certain projects, right? I mean, the kind of solutions customer has already deployed to protect their infrastructure. What do you see? Like, I mean, what is a good idea? Is it fine tuning of the existing devices are good enough to protect this advanced attack, or just keep on buying more and more devices to protect, like making it much more complicated for the hacker? Based on your personal experience, I mean, I'm not asking for a generic answer, but what do you think?
Yeah, that is a really good question. In my experience, what I've seen is because if there are some customers, for example, if they are expecting 1 lakh connection in 2018, and 3 years down the line, they're expecting around 10 lakhs of connections, but their security in terms of the flow of network is still in terms of 1 lakh users, keeping the same security in place, then that becomes challenging in many aspects. That is in terms of handling the load. In terms of security, yeah, there is still a gap in terms of not being proactive. Yes, because most of the time I see it's always a reactive solutions being worked out in most of the cases. Attack is happening, it's already there inside the environment, how to protect it. So, and like training awareness, what should be done? Because many of us, we get scared, right? If any attack happens in front of our eyes, how to be reactive, because the more time you take, the more dangerous it is. So that is lagging actually. The response time for an attack, if it happens, they are very, late to respond.
Okay.
So that is what I found in general. But in most of the cases, if somebody has taken an approach-based security, architectural approach-based security, most of the attacks is, always prevented. Instead of, if you are just reactive, there could many disaster could happen to your organization. So this is the thing how I look into the things.
Okay, very nice. Very nice, Vishal. Thank you so much. So anyone who would like to share his thoughts and any questions you may have? Yes, so Mr. Durga Prasad is having a question, Vishal, for you.
Okay.
He's asking, could you tell me how the kill chain approach will happen when any system or network is compromised in an organization? Like blue chain approach will happen from downwards to upwards.
That's a really good question. Actually, once we reach the command, once we finish the stages, right? Consider the attack is inside your environment and he has a control over your PC. Then there will be again a phase starting from first reconnaissance, like how many machines or servers are available in the network, which I can further attack. Weaponization, what kind of server? It is 2008 server or 2012 server. So likewise, it will follow the kill chain from the beginning, once it is inside, from the first rather than last.
Yeah, so there are sub key, cyber kill chain models are also there. So this is a very broad model, but then there are concepts evolving like internal cyber kill chain, exploit cyber kill chain. So even people are talking about that as well. So if something is already compromised, how exactly you'll be able to deal with that? So starting that as a step one. So one machine is compromised, and now that machine is trying to attack or try to get control of other machines. So again, it will start from reconnaissance. So it will try to find out what all other machines they will be able to compromise, and then this ultimately, keep on happening in a loop. So of course, to prevent it, you need various controls. There are solutions which are available where it assumes that you are already compromised, and if you use their solutions, you will be able to protect it. Right. So these are the kind of solutions like DLP, and a very, very simple example would be DLP, right? If something is even infected and somebody is trying to share the data outside, DLP will be able to protect it, but not all the time. But that could be a good example where it assumes that certain things is already compromised and you're able to catch, and then automated actions and SIEM tools comes into picture where it picks up the efforts from analyzing the things which are happening in your network and give you a sophisticated and very good overview how exactly you'll be able to deal with that before actually the attack happens.
Yes. Yeah, that is a really good point, because that is the reason why that could happen in most of the cases. If you don't have end-to-end security, there should be an endpoint security. There should be security at every perimeter level, be it endpoint, be it not, because that increases the chances if you don't have solution at the endpoint, but that comparatively reduces the chances of many form of attack, which is a non-attack, right? But if it is something called like behavioral attack, that is something cannot be done or worked out in most of the cases. That's why recommendation is always there to have endpoint solutions. So that can comparatively stops more.
Yes, so there are two approaches how to stop the attackers entering into your system. The second is once they have entered, how to stop them from going outside. So it has to be two approach, and this is how anybody should be, people who are getting into security trying to understand, they should take this approach entirely, because sometimes it may not be possible to stop each and everything from entering into your system, but yes, going outside is very difficult. For example, you can have encryption enabled on your laptop, so virus can come inside your laptop, but when somebody is trying to copy the data on the pen drive, it is always encrypted. So anyway, nobody will be able to take the data outside, correct? They can use other mechanism as well, but that's one level of restrictions you can apply. So there are the various things which happens on, I can see many students are also there, few students are there for their understanding, this topic could be a little heavy from the technical perspective. And for you, all of you, you have to just see around you. So cybersecurity is not very different from physical security. So just look at your home, shops, malls, and everything else, right? And you always see some security guards. Some doors are shut, the shutters are down, and some cameras are there. The CCTV cameras. These are all some kind of protections which are there to help it. Just imagine you don't have a door, or you don't shut down your you put down your shutter for a shop. What will happen? So this is how the cybersecurity world is. If you don't have a firewall, if you don't have a basic security, there is somebody is always looking at your home or a place to hack you or steal the data. So that comes as a reconnaissance, and that is one of the reasons in our part of the world, people have security guards and they close the door, and then they put some kind of the spy camera if required. And of course, the more people who can afford, and they're more like a machine learning thing, they will put dog inside their compound, and and people like honeypot, like they'll put a sticker saying that is a dog inside, even if it is not there. So make it tough for the hackers to get inside. So there are various ways with which people generally can be stopped. And also APT kind of thing. APT is more like an advanced persistent. I mean, that guy is, and those people will not be going away easily. So in our world, what I see them, APT is more like a supari killer. Just give them the job and that's it. I mean, they will do it and wait for the particular time, and they have all the time and everything, patience, and also the encouragement, and to make sure some damage happens. So APTs are more like that. There is always a backing behind the people who are trying to harm you. Okay, very nice. So Mr. Vallabh says, if the blue team is not aware of red team actions, how can the blue team take actions? Vishal, you would like to take that?
Yeah. Just
Yes.
a second. I'm not seeing that question there. Can you tell me the difference between blue and purple team?
Before that, he's asking, Vallabh is asking, a blue team is not aware of the red team actions. How can the blue team take actions?
Okay. That is something where I suggest to have a purple approach. There should be an awareness. If you are a blue team working dedicatedly and you don't know what is happening from outside, what is not, then the only thing that can be done at this moment is have a purple approach or a red team and blue team approach of being your security infrastructure. So that would be a good thing. The other thing is VAPT does that for you, correct? If you are coordinating with a VAPT team, which will do the part of a red team, then coordinating with them what they are doing and what is happening at the blue end gives you a more clarity. Okay, this part of security infrastructure I should be comparatively taking care of more. How did you pass on to this part of the security, like IPS, advanced security, next generation firewall? How did you manage to bypass that detection of security? Means they will give you information and you can interact with them. That is one way how it works generally in the real world. But if for your understanding you actually want to know from that approach, you can always have a red and blue approach, which is a purple approach, we say. So it's your call.
Yes, Vallabh. So if you do not have the red part, so that you have to develop that, and whenever anybody is hiring for VAPT.
Yeah, so happen that in many companies, they having a VAPT teams already, but still companies are hacked because of less of awareness of that VAPT team. So happen that actually they are not real world hackers. VAPT teams, who are working in a company, they are not much aware of the real practical things. Because of that, they are not able to take action against the red team.
Correct. So
in that case, so happen that whether it's a purple or whatever you are saying, instead of purple, we have to make sure that the blue team, whatever is there, they have to have a more awareness than the red team. Then only you can control.
Okay. So Vallabh, so that's a good thought. But the way we see things is, somewhere in QS, we were giving presentation at some forum, and we displayed a slide saying that security is not a problem versus this or that. It's a game.
Yeah.
So you just play like a chess. I mean, you move your part, and that's it. And you take a calculated guess that whatever I'm doing, I should be able to catch someone.
Yes.
But
So
there is
when you
no way you will be able to do that. Taking the red. So similarly, of course, I mean, if you have an internal VAPT team, as you suggested, if they are very complacent and they already know what to do, it will not work. So that is why external VAPT is recommended always.
100%,
At least once in
100%.
a
I
year.
agree.
Yes.
I agree your point.
And keep on changing them also at the same time.
Yeah.
You cannot have a single VAPT vendor who is doing VAPT
Yes.
every time for you.
That's what I'm telling you. See, when we are playing a chess, we always think that when we are moving one coin, we think, take action many times that whether I have to move or not, or we can think that is there any checkpoint?
Correct.
All right. So in that case, so happen that instead of doing this one-man show, like we internal team, whatever they are taking action, they may or may not aware of something which is other teams are aware. So in that case, connecting to the multiple teams and take a suggestion from them, then take an immediate action that will be helpful for the team, internal team. Right now, so happen that internal team, they are thinking that they are a genius and they are doing whatever they know.
Correct. Absolutely.
After that, once they get attacked, then they started thinking that. Even I see in my case, I have seen many cases the red team, internal team, blue team, whatever you say, and their experience, OSCP, VAPT, everything. But still, I seen the application. There are a lot of number of gaps in their applications. Even they are not tested that. Even it's a very small single thing. Once I seen one application where the forget password page was created by the initial time from the head of that development team, and he left out so many things. If I get into that forget password page,
Oh, we understand.
I can change entire application.
This is what we say. Security is also more of a mindset, and there has to be support from the top.
It's like an art. It's like an art.
Yes.
It can craft any type.
You have to. This is more of a silos
Yes.
where your application team is not working with your blue team, and
Right.
then there is always a gap.
Yes.
That is where the CISOs have to come in play, take charge of the control,
Yes.
and make sure this entire team is working. And simulations nowadays is playing very big role. Because majority of the people have never seen the attack in real time. So that is
Yes.
why a lot of simulation are happening, and real kind of exposures are happening.
Yeah.
But more of a breaking the silos and bringing everybody on the same page is what is required.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even I asked many of the blue team, have you done any real time of attacking type on your application? But they are not done. They are not done practically. That's the
Correct.
problem.
Yeah, so bringing then everybody in more of a process
Yeah.
and a mindset. I think this is changing of late. I say, Vallabh, and especially the banking sector and government. Certain government sectors are very, very serious about that. Yeah, of course, but there is a huge scope of improvement.
Yeah.
But
That awareness only we have to create. That will be helpful for controlling the cyber attacks.
Yes. So it has to be bringing team everybody and skilling them. See, if you talk a red skills language, which I don't understand, that is where purple approach comes into picture. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, very nice. So one last question. Mr. Durga Prasad is saying, what is the difference between blue and purple? So I'll take that question, Vishal. So blue is basically, sir, it's the defensive tools, right? Blue is pure play defensive, right? You have firewall, IPS, SIM tool, and then you put machine learning, IOCs, and everything else, right? So you just protect something. Purple is basically, of course, everything whatever is blue, plus you attack from the other side. For example, to do very, very simple example, if I tell you, see, if a normal situation of a VAPT happens, somebody is trying to penetrate a system and then tell you, okay, I was able to do a brute force attack. I was able to guess the password, okay, from external to some internal server. If this is only blue, so that guy will be happy and then will show you a good report and everybody is like panicked, okay, we failed somewhere, right? But from the blue perspective, the only mistake, or this could have been failed completely had this engineer has not opened up the SSH port on the firewall itself for external people. So firewall is, the application is still vulnerable, but on firewall you blocked SSH for external people. So it is not a win situation for a red. He was able to crack the password because somebody made a silly mistake on the firewall. So the purple engineer will be able to identify this, and he will say, okay, how did you guess the password? How did you come inside first to tell me? Okay, you cannot come inside if I have SSH not allowed it. Obviously, when I don't allow it, my server remains vulnerable, brute force, but outside people cannot attack it. So this entire understanding of purple is this, and also doing a lot of simulations, to take the elevation to the next level. So he understands both the language and bring down the noise within the system. The example which I told you, like we have done for a couple of times. Like, I mean, if you are able to do SQL injection, for example, now if I'm a purple engineer, I will say my IPS is not working. Why my IPS could not stop it? Right? Because ideally all these things will be captured by the IPS itself. So this is the entire approach of purple. A blue team will only say, okay, it got attacked, or maybe, I have to check the firewall, or maybe IPS, some signatures was in detect mode and everything else, right? But a purple engineer can talk a very, sensible talk with the red team to make the entire atmosphere or the situations or the IT environment much more secure. So that's the difference. So blue team is primarily the guys who utilize the tools without understanding deeper knowledge on the red part. Hope that answered the question. I think we are done for the day, and we can always be in touch through LinkedIn or Facebook. We appreciate everyone for the time. I think we are running short of time. And thank you so much, Vishal, one more time. And thanks everyone for your good participation. Nice questions, some nice discussion has happened. Thank you so much, and happy learning. Keep learning. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.